It seems like everything that Ubisoft has been doing in the last year or so has been turning the crap for them. Most recently, Star Wars Outlaws really underperformed with the amount of money that they spent on it. And then their upcoming game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, doesn't look like it's going to fare too much better either. You can see from the latest trailer that they have for it, it's heavily ratioed and it's also just getting roasted in the comments, especially with allegations that they're using bots to try to give it positive comments and leave it likes and other things like that. And a lot of this is starting to be reflected in the stock value of the company. It's at nearly a 10-year low for the company right now. And Assassin's Creed and the pushback has been so severe that they've tried to address much of the criticism. There was Asian groups wanting to get the game pulled, which they kind of gave a non-apology answer for why they made the decisions that they made in the game. But one thing that Ubisoft has maintained is that they're trying to be historically accurate, and that's why they had the inclusion of Yasuke and why they made him a samurai in the game. But come to find out, the historical consultants that they're using for this game is also just a political activist who has admittedly an agenda to push when it comes to this game, and that's why Yasuke is being portrayed as a black samurai, and also why he's supposed to be gay in the game or something like that. And it's gotten so bad where it's really, there's no way they can hide it now that they're not being historically accurate. So now they're kind of saying like, well, yes, we're not historically accurate, but that's okay with the story that we're trying to tell. This is coming from that Park Place right here. And this is what this article has to say. Mark Alexis Coute, Ubisoft's executive producer for its Assassin's Creed franchise, recently admitted the company's aim with Assassin's Creed Shadows is to go beyond what is accepted truth. So that's kind of a funny way to put it. Go beyond what is accepted truth, as in we're not doing what the truth is. So they're kind of just admitting at this point that they're just telling their own story and they're not trying to be historically accurate. So all that bolstering in the past about like, oh yeah, we have a historical consultant on here, an advisor, so that's why we portrayed Yasuke that way. No. That's just a bunch of fluff right there. They were doing that because they wanted to have a black lead character, so they tried to find a way to justify it. And when people weren't buying what they were selling, now they're trying to say like, look, this is a work of fiction. Let us just tell our fictitious story because this is the type of story that we want to tell, which is not having an Asian lead, but have a black person as the lead. In an interview with the New York Times that Ubisoft used as a hit piece to attack its former fans and potential customers for Assassin's Creed Shadows, that's something I'm going to get out in a little bit. Coute revealed exactly what he and his team are doing with the game. He told the outlet, "We want people to be passionate about history. What does that mean? Stay true to well-documented moments and historical figures, but not shying away from having a critical point of view and defying cliches to go beyond what is the accepted truth." There we go with that accepted truth line, which is basically them saying, we're just telling the story that we want to tell because this is a work of fiction. But check this out right here. Couple this with what game director Charles Benoit told Xbox Wire, and it seems abundantly clear that Ubisoft is in reality trying to rewrite history. Benoit said in May, "We're at the end of the Sengoku era in a turning point of Japan history. Assassin's Creed is well known for its depiction of the history and accurate recreation of the world, and it's what players can expect with Assassin's Creed Shadows." So that's kind of what they've said in the past, is that we're trying to be historically accurate. So that's what we're kind of going for when it comes to this game. That's why it's justifiable to have Yasuke be a samurai. We're showing real historical figures such as Oda Nobunaga and a lot of events that happened during that time. So you're not only playing in feudal Japan, but learning about the fantastic time period. And that's something I have liked about Assassin's Creed in the past, is that the way they weave the fictitious story with real historical events. I think it's kind of interesting when you have good historical fiction made in that way, where they're not necessarily trying to change history or trying to change what actually happened, but they're trying to weave their story in with it. But it seems like when it comes to this game, they deviated pretty dramatically, at least compared to some of the previous Assassin's Creed games. And a lot of people are pointing it out because it's abundantly clear why they're doing it. A lot of game companies are trying to push DEI. They wanted to have an excuse to have a black lead in this game. So they combed through Japanese history and found an excuse to actually include a black character in it. But unlike other Assassin's Creed games where historical figures will just be kind of a side character that you interact with, which I think would have been kind of cool if you just had Yasuke as a side character that is an ally to the main character. Instead, they wanted to make him the lead and they had to change his actual story in order to try to justify that. So this is them really deviating from history in a way they haven't done it in the past. And it's literally just with the purpose of trying to push a political agenda. And that's what a lot of gamers don't like when it comes to this game. Ironically, the New York Times' Zachary Small also shared that Kute believes this approach would inevitably open Assassin's Creed to more criticism in the future, but that the developers have decided it was a risk worth taking. And right now it's looking like those historical revisions that they made probably aren't going to pay off for them. It is unlikely that many gamers will be giving Ubisoft and Kute that chance to the creative choices they took with the game and their ensuing response to player dissatisfaction to those choices. And to me, that's some of the worst aspects of this. A lot of the pushback against the actual gamers online isn't necessarily from Ubisoft itself. It's from a lot of people defending it. But at the same time, Ubisoft just kind of stood by, in some cases, amplified those other people who were attacking the paying customer as opposed to denouncing him. Now, I'm not saying Ubisoft is responsible for denouncing anyone who was trying to attack the paying customer for Ubisoft because they didn't like the choices that they made in the game. But I think it would have extended a lot of goodwill on the part of Ubisoft if they're like, hey, don't attack people if they don't like this game, or don't call them racist because they don't like this. These were just decisions that we made for creative reasons for the game. And if people don't like it, they're allowed to have that opinion. If Ubisoft made a statement like that, then I think that would have garnered a lot of goodwill from the general audience. But they didn't do that. They were happy to be like, yeah, it is a historically accurate game and people who don't like it are racist and other things like that, which is not really a good look because most people are like, well, I can't be bullied into playing your game. So if you're saying I'm not wanted, then fine, I'll just do something else. And it's looking like that's probably going to be the case right here, because check this out. Craig Skeetsamus, aka Stuttering Craig, who owns and hosts the Side Scroll podcast, shared inside information with the retail source indicating that physical pre-orders for Assassin's Creed Shadows are very low. He wrote on X, "My insider told me that as of this morning at their wide big box chain, Assassin's Creed Shadows has less than 800 pre-orders combined for Xbox and PS5 company-wide." He added, "They have over 900 stores. That is less than one pre-order per store. Yikes." And this was posted back in August. So a couple of weeks ago that he posted this. Now, yes, they're going to sell a lot of digital copies too, but usually you'll see somewhat physical copies. I think the previous Assassin's Creed game sold tens of thousands of physical copies during launch. So having less than 1,000 is a bad sign for this. All things considered, that's kind of along the same area as Star Wars Outlaws, which was another huge issue for them. And a lot of this just comes back to how they were kind of marketing the game and the choices that they made. They wanted to try to push a political agenda with their choice of characters in this game. People were calling them out, and then they were lying about the justification as to why they're doing it. And they're having a lot of allies online try to attack people for not agreeing with their decisions. And this is pretty much the result of it. But a lot of people trying to still defend it by saying like, well, Yasuke is a historical figure, so why shouldn't he be included? And why shouldn't they play him as the main character? Like, okay, fine. Now, just imagine for a second that they're going to make an Assassin's Creed game set in Africa. Let's say it was South Africa, and they say you're going to be playing as a Zulu war chief. That's going to be the lead character. People be like, okay, fine. Black people be like, okay, we got representation in this game, so that's cool. And then come to find out, you're playing as John Robert Dunn. Now, for people who don't know, he was a white British guy who was accepted into the Zulu nation and ended up becoming a chief for them. So just to imagine if that was the case where you're like, yeah, you're going to be playing as a Zulu war chief and you play as a white guy. Then they try to say like, oh no, this is historically accurate because of X, Y, and Z. There would be a lot of pushback for that. And rightfully so. I would be like, no, if you're going to play as a Zulu chief, don't have this fringe character in history just so you can have like the one white guy as a Zulu war chief is the one that you're playing as in the game. Just make it more of an authentic to what the actual Zulu nation would have looked like. And I think that's what they should have done with Assassin's Creed, but they didn't do that with Assassin's Creed Shadows. So once the game comes out, we'll see if that risk really does pay off for them. But right now it's looking like it's probably not going to. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Are you upset of the inclusion of Yasuke, or are you upset with their historical revisionism and making him the lead character and making him a samurai? Because to me, that's what a lot of people are criticizing this mostly about, not necessarily the inclusion of a black person, but just the way they're going about doing this just for the sole purpose of trying to push a political agenda. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there with your friends, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.